Hi, how are you doing? Welcome to my first quarterly book haul of 2023. How are we already past 3 months of time? I don't know either. Also, welcome for my floor. It's the first time I've ever my floor, but I thought it was just the easiest for today's setup. I will be talking, in case you've never seen one of these quarterly hauls, I'll be talking about the books I got in the past 3 months. Basically, I don't do monthly book hauls like most booktubers tend to do because I want to cut on my book buying, and I felt like doing monthly book hauls kind of requires to have many books each month, and that's just not the reality. Also, I typically don't really know a lot about the books I buy and have not read yet because I have terrible memory. So even though I knew what these books were about someday, which made me want to pick them up, I don't remember them now. So I feel like this makes it so that I still have a lengthy video without necessarily having to talk in depth about every single one of the books. Let's just get into things. First off, we have my January haul, which I think is the largest of the bunch. I'm not entirely sure. I have not counted them. I got some books. The first 3 I got in January are the second, third, and fourth book in the Twisted series by Anna Juan. King of Wrath was one of my favorite books of last year's, which is the first book in the King of Sins series by the same author. So when I started 2023, I immediately wanted to read Twisted Love, which I have owned for longer than King of Wrath, and I really enjoyed that. It was a 4-star, so I decided to pick up the other books in the series because I think we've been introduced to every one of these every single one of these lead characters except the main guy in this one. I think no, we have. Yes, we have. So that made me intrigued to read these. Twisted Games is the second book. The tagline for this is "He can't have her, but he's taken her anyway." And it is a princess and bodyguard romance. The next book is Twisted Hate by Nahan. The tagline is "He hates her almost as much as he wants her." And this is a enemies with benefits book, which I have not read ever. I'm a big fan of Friends with Benefits though, so I think this is going to be interesting. And the last book is Twisted Lies, which says he'll do anything to have her, including lie, and this is Hate to Love. I know that. And then I know he pretends to be like less wealthy, I guess, as he is, to make an impression with her. I don't exactly know how that works. There's a lot of romance in this haul, by the way, in case you're not interested in that. I don't know what they're still doing here. The next book I got is Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. Now you may say, Jay, you read Birthday Girl a couple of months ago. You didn't like it. Why are you picking up another Penelope Douglas? Because I want to love their books. I have heard so many great things about them. And Birthday Girl just didn't work for me because I didn't really like the way that age gap was dealt with. I think I don't hate age gap relationships, they just need to be dealt with in a certain way, and I felt like that book did not do that. So this is not an age gap. This is a bully romance, which I don't think I've ever read, so that's fun. But what I do know is, the reason why I was mainly interested in this, besides just raving reviews I've heard, is that the 2 main characters are pen pals, but under like a different name, and then they like he goes to her, like moves to her school, and they meet and they don't get along in real life, but they are like really close as pen pals. I love that trope where they are communicating in one way and like getting along really well in that way and like falling in love, and then like in real life they hate each other. I love that trope so much. Then we have the only book in this haul that I've read, and that's For Aunties and a Wedding by Jessica Sutanto. This is the sequel to That Day for Aunties, which was one of my favorite books of 2021. It's been a while, but I really loved that book. I thought it was so funny and so over the top and ridiculous, and I loved it. I've been very excited to get to the sequel, but I just haven't gotten around to picking it up, and I saw it in the bookstore someday in January and was like, ah! And I got it. With the next book, I'm kind of taking a risk, and that's Magnolia Park by Jessa Hastings. This is a very popular non-conventional romance, which that means a non-conventional romance is basically a romance that doesn't necessarily have a happily ever after. And I've also heard it compared to Gossip Girl a lot, the show, not necessarily the books, so that makes me intrigued, besides just everyone being obsessed with this series. And I think the last book from the series came out recently, so that also makes me intrigued. And this is so very floppy, so we can complain. And also like this back, this is what sold me, because this definitely is like vibes of books that I love. Like, and then next we have one book that I really hope is gonna be hit, and that's Legend and Lattes by Travis Baldry. This is a cozy fantasy book that has taken the internet by storm. Literally, I am so excited to read this, and I know this is so popular, which is frankly the only reason why I have not read this yet, because I don't want to be the only person to not like this book, you know? So that's everything I got in January, and here is my February haul. The first thing that I got in February was definitely impulse buy, but it happened and now I can't take it back, and that's the entire Bargainer series. That's what it's called. Yes, this is the entire Bargainer series by Laura Talasa. Here's the thing, I've heard so many great things about this. This is a fantasy romance series. I think it's Fae, I'm not entirely sure. I've heard amazing things about these books, about this author in general, and I at first was going to pick up the first book, but then my bookstore had all of the series, and I have this history with my bookstore where I go in, I see a series that I really want to read, and then I'm like, I'll be good, I'll only buy the first book just in case, and then I buy the first book, fall in love with it, go back to the bookstore, they don't have the rest of the series anymore, and I hate when that happens. So I got off. The first book is Rhapsodic. This is what I generally think this is Fae. I'm not sure. The tagline is make a deal if you dare. That sounds like Fae, doesn't it? Second book is Strange Hymn. This is a series that follows the same couple, I believe. So it's like one continuous story. So I'm not gonna read any of that. They have a novella that is The Emperor of Evening Stars, but it is officially marked as book 3 on the spine, as you can see. And then the last book is Dark Harmony. Another thing I got, which you should expect if you've been around here for the past couple of months, is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. Obviously. I have not read this yet, which is kind of a surprise because I read the entirety of the Folk of the Air series in January because I was so obsessed with it. And this came out in January, and I've been looking at it, or looking for it in bookstores ever since. And it just wasn't until February till I actually found it. This follows Oak, who is the little brother of Jude, the protagonist of the original series. It follows him and then another Fae girl that we've been introduced to in that series that I don't want to say too much about just in case of spoilers, because I do think you can spoil things for that series. I'm actually very excited to read this. I've seen some mixed reviews of it. Some people really like it, other people don't really like it. I just generally heard it's not as good as the Folk of the Air series, but I'm not expecting that. I'm just hoping that it's better than everything else I've ever Holly Black. And then my mom and I regularly go to comedy shows because it's just a fun pastime. And in February we went to Wouter de Pre, with a Flemish stand-up comedian, and he also has written some books, and after the show he sold like merchandising including some books, and I got 2 and I'm very excited to read. First one that I want to show is Peach by Wouter de Pre, which is also the title of the stand-up show we went to. It's kind of like a companion piece to this, and then he explained this in the show. This is a ode to the 2 greatest loves in his life, which is the Flemish language and het West-Vlaams, the dialect. So I am very excited to read this, because in general, like, the easiest way for me to want to read something is for the person who wrote it to pitch it and like talk about the passion of why they wanted to write it. So obviously I am very excited to read this. It is also signed. And I also got Grote Mensen die kende toen ik klein was by Wouter de Pre. This is a book. The title literally translates to Big People I Knew When I Was Little. So this is a book about the various people in his life in his town when he grew up and like their character, stuff like that. And again, it is signed. And then we have already arrived to the last book of this vlog, which is also the one I'm actually most excited to show you. And that's the only book I got in March, and that's Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare, the final book in the Last Hour series. Now, have I only read the first book in this trilogy? Yes. Am I rectifying that soon? Also yes. But basically, I'm a Shadowhunters bitch. Do I still recommend the Shadowhunters? Necessarily no. I think it's a very difficult world setting thing to get into now. But as someone who was there when things were still being released, I think I got into Shadowhunters right around the time the last Morland Swim book was released. So definitely way back in the day. Like, this just holds a place of nostalgia, and I will always have a fun time reading these books, at least, even if I don't necessarily end up liking them. But yeah, that's everything that I got this past 3 months. Let me know in the comments what you thought of these books, if you've read them, so I know a chance to prioritize. So some of the books you got this past quarter, I can't talk. And anyway, I'll see you next time. Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? Should've